Welcome back to High School Math Analyzers. Today's video is Reflections of Functions. Did you miss our previous videos? This summer, High School Math Analyzers are presenting a 4-part series on functions. Click on the card on the top right corner to check out the playlist. Here is a cheat sheet to help you. On the left side we have transformation of f of x, and on the right side we have transformation of graph of f of x. The first one shows negative f of x, which means reflect across the x-axis, and the second one shows f of negative x, which means reflect across the y-axis. Here is reflection over the x-axis. Reflection over the x-axis. The transformation of f of x is negative f of x. Notice how the y-coordinates changes while the x-coordinates don't. This is because when we are reflecting over the x-axis, the y-coordinate is the only thing changing. So you can see that I highlighted the x-axis for both of these graphs. I have two graphs here. The first graph is f of x equals x squared. The blue line represents negative f of x, which just means, reflecting over the x-axis. So I picked a point on the original function, which is 1, 1. The y-coordinate changes while the x-coordinates don't. So x stays the same, but my y-coordinate changes to negative 1. Same thing for this graph. I have f of x equals 3x to the 5th power. And the blue line represents negative f of x, which is just reflecting over the x-axis. The original point that I had was negative 1, negative 3. The y-coordinate changes while the x-coordinates don't. So our x-coordinate stays as negative 1, but our y-coordinate changes and it becomes 3. So that's why our point is negative 1, 3. Here is reflection over the y-axis. Reflection over the y-axis. The transformation of f of x is f of negative x. Something to notice is how the x-coordinates changes while the y-coordinates don't. This is because when we are reflecting over the y-axis, the x-coordinate is the only thing changing. Here I have two graphs. The first graph I have f of x equals x cubed, and the blue line represents f of negative x, which is reflecting over the y-axis. So you can see that the y-axis is highlighted, and these are reflections of each other. I picked one point on the original function, which is 1, 1. Notice how the x-coordinate changes while the y-coordinate don't. So the y-coordinate doesn't change, but the x-coordinate does, and that is why it's negative 1, 1. On the second graph, I have f of x equals 4x to the 5th power. The blue line again represents f of negative x, which just means reflecting over the y-axis. And the point that I picked was negative 1, negative 4. Again, the x-coordinate changes while the y-coordinate doesn't. So for negative 1, it changes to 1, and negative 4 doesn't change, so we have 1, negative 4. Now let's try out some problems. Remember to pause the video before we go over the problem. The graph below represents f of x, which the following is the graph of negative f of x. Remember to pause the video before I explain the answer. In order to solve this problem, we must recognize that from f of x to negative f of x, it means to reflect the graph over the x-axis. So let's highlight the x-axis, and let's reflect our graph over the x-axis. So our reflected graph will look something like this. This is negative f of x. The only answer choice that looks like this is answer choice 3, which is why that is the answer. The graph below represents f of x. Which graph best represents f of negative x. Remember to pause the video before I explain the answer. In order to solve this, we must recognize that from f of x to f of negative x, this means you will reflect the graph across the y-axis. So let's highlight the y-axis. And if we reflect f of x, it'll look something like this. So this is f of negative x. The only answer choice that looks like this is answer choice 4, which is why the correct answer is answer choice 4. Please subscribe, hit the like button, comment, and share this video. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at High School Math Analyzers. Thanks for watching. We hope you learned something new, and we'll see you in the next one.